Howdy there, this is Diwari again with Uniquely Average Gamers, and we're going to continue on with our expose of all things Destiny. This time around, we're going to go into the class, the Hunter, specifically the Gunslinger Hunter, because we only got access to that in the alpha. If it's going to be equated to any other traditional classes from MMOs, it would be the Ranger or the Archer or the Hunter from World of Warcraft, in the sense that it's going to be a range DPS focus class. And we're going to elaborate that here in a minute. Now, what makes their playstyle unique is a couple things. One, they have their own unique series of grenades, which we're going to get into here in a moment. And they also have the double jump ability. And theirs isn't a rocket pack, theirs isn't a float, it's just a double jump. So it's very quick, it's very agile, it feels very organic, and it doesn't leave you as exposed as the other double jumps tend to do in Destiny. Now, the trademark ability of the Gunslinger is going to be Golden Gun, and when you hear Golden Gun, you probably think of GoldenEye, where you get the one handgun that can one-shot everything. Well, it's pretty similar in this case. You get this very powerful Magnum that you get for 3 shots. They're not too accurate, so aim them well, and it's capable of one-shotting weaker enemies, enemy players, as well as being fired into heavier enemies multiple times to kill them quickly if they're getting a little bit too pesky. As time goes on, you get further on, you can add AoE capabilities as well as decrease its cooldown. Now, as far as weaponry and gear is concerned, you will have more armor than the Warlock class, you will have less than the Titan. You are right in the middle, so you still need to be a little bit agile, but you can take a hit and keep swinging. As far as weaponry is concerned, as always, pick the one that works best for your playstyle. Everything's balanced in Destiny. You will have times when you need to get up and close and personal, as well as stick far away. So you have multiple different abilities, which is a good segue into the ability tree. Here we are, the Gunslinger ability tree. This tree is going to enhance your sort of ranged abilities, as well as make sure that you can keep Gunslinger up for a much longer time. Let's talk about it. You do still have armor, recovery, and agility, much like every other class. You do tend to have more agility as a hunter because you need to jump higher with that magnificent double jump. Starting with Incendiary Grenade, this is going to be your starter grenade. It's going to blow up, damaging enemies around it, and then it's going to leave a fire-based dot on the enemy, causing additional damage. It is fantastic to throw on a boss as always. It doesn't explode on impact, but it's got a very quick activation time. After that, you have Swarm Grenade, and this is a more defensive grenade. What I mean by that is that it's going to break into small, little red floating pieces, and when those pieces are near an enemy, they're going to be attracted to the enemy and blow up on the enemy. They're just going to seek them out, blow them up. That can be good if you need to guard a flag in PvP, or if you know that ads are coming around the corner, which, speaking of which, the Trip Mine Grenade is the final grenade that we got, that we know exists so far. This grenade is going to be just as it sounds. It's going to leave a little laser in front of it. If you walk through it, it blows up. First time we've seen it in a Bungie game, so we want to see how much damage it does. Next up is the double jump. This is the only class that gets a flat-out double jump. As I mentioned before, it is fantastic. It gives you great air. You're not in the air that long, and you can get up to higher perches very quickly if you're, under fire or something like that. The next up, you get better control. Obviously, that's going to do as it sounds. You're going to be able to direct yourself in different directions faster. Triple jump is after that. Pretty self-explanatory. You now can jump 3 times. You see that cliff? Jump to the top of it. Now, after that, you get higher jump, which is going to increase double jump for even greater height. We don't know if that's going to increase the triple jump as well, but we do know that it's going to give you greater height. Now, that can be good if you have a sniper rifle, you're out of the way, adds a new sense of verticality to your matchup against whatever class you're playing. So there are advantages, and as I mentioned, the biggest one is that you are not as exposed. After that, you have their trademark skill, which is Golden Gun. This is going to bind to your left one and right one, or your left bumper, right bumper for our X1 friends. And this is going to be the move we described earlier on. You get 3 shots of an uber powerful weapon that's going to have the capability of one-shotting smaller enemies or doing significant damage to the heavier enemies. After 3 shots, there's not many that can survive, so use it on the enemies that you need to die quickly. After that, you get the Deadeye. It's going to increase the accuracy of Golden Gun. Golden Gun is a little cockeyed at the beginning. So if you get this, you're going to be more accurate. There's nothing wrong about that. Now, combustion is going to be really good because this is what we were talking about earlier on in the sense that Golden Gun gets upgraded to be able to deal with multiple enemies. This is going to cause enemies killed by Golden Gun to explode, meaning it's going to cause damage to enemies around it. So if you have a whole bunch of enemies pouring through a bottleneck, you now have a tool for that. After that, you get Gunfighter, which means that you get Golden Gun to be on a reduced cooldown. So if you weren't already satisfied with how often you got Golden Gun, you now get it more. After that, we get into their special melee ability, which isn't truly a melee. It's a throwing knife. It's exactly as it sounds. You throw a knife, it's got an arch on it, so you do want to kind of weight it a little bit, it does still automatically cause its cooldown to go even if it misses the enemy. So unlike the other melees, if you throw it out and you miss, you have to wait for it to recharge. Circle of Life is going to be next on the list, and killing an enemy with throwing knife while you have Golden Gun active is going to increase the duration of Golden Gun, meaning you get more shots off with Golden Gun. So if you have an enemy close by and he's pretty light, you don't want to waste a shot of Golden Gun on him, throw a knife in the side of their head and you're going to get an extra shot rewarded to you so you can take out that wizard or that chieftain or the larger enemy that's going to be giving you some flack. It also increases your armor if you hadn't looked up there. Incendiary Blade is next. Now this is going to be awesome because it's going to leave a damage over time effect on the enemy when they are struck with your throwing knife. Now if you combine that with the incendiary grenade from earlier, you're going to have 2 dots hitting the enemy, hopefully a boss, twice. But not to be outdone, we have Knife Juggler after that. Knife Juggler is going to be, if you hit them with a crit, essentially a precision kill. If you headshot them with a throwing knife, you get another throwing knife right there. You don't have to wait for your melee cooldown, which can be quite lengthy if you haven't built in the proper stat usage. Okay, now next up we have your path skills. These are going to be very similar to other skills we've seen before in the sense that they're going to increase your armor, your recovery, or your agility, or a combination of such. Like we mentioned in previous videos, armor is going to increase your damage mitigation, recovery is going to increase your health recovery, and agility is going to make you run faster and jump higher. As always, pick which is most suitable for your playstyle, increase your own strengths. If your context calls for more mitigation, you can swap it right over. But like we mentioned, as always, pick your favorite, pick which one makes you the best. After that, you get Scavenger. Now, Scavenger is going to be a skill that means if you start picking up ammo, your grenades and your throwing knife are going to be on a decreased cooldown. So you get to throw those out more often. Now, those do a lot of damage, so this means that you're going to be slinging out more powerful attacks, causing more damage. After that, you get Keyhole. This is going to be another booster to the Golden Gun skill in the sense that it's going to cause penetration through your enemies. So if you shoot an enemy and there's an enemy behind it, it's going to go right through them and damage them both. Now this can be very, very good because we know that we start with 3 precious shots for the Golden Gun. Why not take out more enemies while we have it? Finally, you get Gunslinger's Trance. Now that is going to be a skill that if you get a headshot on an enemy with any weapon, it's going to increase that weapon's stability, meaning its recoil is going to go down and you're going to be able to focus on more shots. That can be good for fully automatic weapons. That can be good for semi-automatic weapons. That could be good for sniper rifles, heavy machine guns, you name it. There's going to be multitudes of weapons benefiting from that. So always aim for the head if you're not already. Now we get into the column that's about the ways of, like for instance, ways of the drifter or ways of the nomad. These are going to be about further increasing your armor, your recovery, and your agility. As we stated before, pick whichever one best suits your playstyle. It's pretty straightforward what these skills do. Okay, now since these skills are pretty much explaining themselves, I'm just going to pause here for a moment and make the most shameless of plugs for our Twitter. Check us out, You Average Gamers. We're always posting new stuff, tons of videos. We got a lot going on. Okay, that's all I need. Serious face, here we go. Now, at the very end of the Gunslinger tree, we're going to find some of the most compelling skills, starting with Chain of Woe. Chain of Woe is going to increase your reload speed as you get precision kills, aka headshots. It's going to stack up to 3 times. So if you're using a weapon that has high headshot damage and low ammo capacity, think magnums and sniper rifles, you're going to be spending a lot less time reloading and a lot more time putting bullets into enemies. That is never a bad thing. After that, you get Over the Horizon, which is going to increase the range of Golden Gun, and it's also going to marginally increase your recovery stat, as you can see on the bar above. Golden Gun already has a pretty good distance to it, so I'm not really sold on this one until I can see what type of distance they're talking about. Now, the final skill that we see is the one that I find most interesting, and the reason I say that is because it's called Gambler's Dagger, and you get 2 throwing knives. The throwing knife already has the ability to put a damage over time effect on an enemy. Does this mean that we can throw 2 daggers into an enemy and have 2 dots upon them? If you combine that with the incendiary grenade as a 3rd dot and add in the Golden Gun single target damage output capabilities, we start to see a picture of the Gunslinger being a very high single target DPS class. Now, this is all speculation. We don't know what the damage and duration of these dots will be, but it certainly makes a pretty convincing argument. Now, from a stat standpoint, Gunslingers are going to have the same stats as other classes. You're going to have Intellect, Strength, and Discipline. Intellect is going to further decrease the cooldown time of your Golden Gun. Like we mentioned, the more Golden Gun, the better. Next, you have Strength, which is going to increase your melee damage as well as the damage of your throwing knife. And then finally, you're going to have Discipline, which is going to further decrease the cooldown of your grenade. Now, we know that Hunters already inherently have grenade cooldown reduction from the skill tree that we looked at earlier on. Until we can see how much those reductions actually are in application, we cannot accurately prioritize Discipline over the others. But from the outside looking in, Intellect means more Golden Gun. It seems like that might take the cake. Now, from a PvP standpoint, we didn't get too much footage PvPing as a hunter. Not for lack of want, simply for lack of time. What we can tell you is that we were on the receiving end of the Golden Gun several times, and it one-shots every player combatant in the game, and it almost one-shots every vehicle in the game. It's okay, you got 3 shots, go for it. You also have the double jump ability, which is going to be, at this level of the game, an advantage over other players in the sense that you're faster and you're not as floaty as a sitting duck. If they're not paying attention to that, you're going to have an advantage over them. Now finally, the grenades of the Hunter are defensive in nature, meaning that you can hold down a position or an objective very well. Throw down a tripwire, throw down the tracker grenades that are going to home in on people who come around a corner. The options are limitless. Now, we're going to end, as we always do, looking out at the spectacular view of the Traveler, and I wanted to say before we left, thank you very much for all your commentary and your feedback. We love every bit of it, so keep it coming. Stay alive out there.